Hi. First off, I just want to say my friend's a little too embarrassed to come up and say this, but she was so happy you guys were going to be here today. Like, she texted me, I was like, oh my god, they're so pretty. That's literally what it was.
Clearly she was talking about me.
Actually, yes. Until you came out and she saw you had the beard, she goes, ooh.
Oh man! Kick her out. She's out of here. I don't know where you are, but you're out of here.
Yay.
Oh, you're right there. You're gone. Go. You're sitting back down. I'm telling you.
Easy.
I mean, it's whatever. My question is actually for both of you, and it's kind of reverse. Daredevil as a character, Matt Murdock, has such a huge character development, and I was wondering if you felt that as kind of when you came into it, was it kind of like, oh man, there's so much I want to do, or, and with Foggy, not as much, and I was wondering if that was kind of framed where you can just go, I don't have this burden, I can do what I want, because for a lot of his history, he was just a bumbling partner.
You mean in the comics?
In the comics. He was kind of that for a long time but I didn't know if that was just like, cool, there's a lot I can do with this character. As opposed to Daredevil being, there's so much that he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think that, there's a lot of people around to make sure that I'm getting it right.
Yeah. And he did great.
Thank you. I mean, I hope I do. I mean, again, I didn't have a lot of, background in the comics and stuff like that. So, and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare. My son was born right before we started shooting the show, and I had just come from Germany, and it was kind of crazy. So I actually really heavily relied on Charlie, because Charlie is one of the most thoughtful people I've ever worked with, and he's, I'm being serious, like and I mean this in a positive way, he's relentless in making sure things are right, and so I feel like my job on the show, as well as just in life, is sort of the same, which is like, I just try to do whatever I can to, help the show along and make sure that, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's his show, it's a show about Daredevil, so I just want to be able to, facilitate that in any way that I can.
I'd just like to add to that as well, which is when I read these first scripts, and I thought they were so good, the first two scripts, but I remember thinking, wow man, it's a tall order, whoever's going to play Foggy, because it'd be very, very easy. You read on the page, you read that character on the page, and even from the comics, you read him, and it's very easy to make that a caricature. It'd be very easy to make him kind of the light-hearted element to the show that kind of says stupid stuff and doesn't really have any kind of feeling behind it. And I'm immensely impressed with what Elden brings to this character, because, and I mean this, he brings so much heart. And he makes that character funny, but he's also, you believe him. You don't for a second think he's a caricature. And that's, I say this to him regularly, but he really is the heart and soul of this piece. The beating heart of Daredevil is Foggy Nelson. So kudos to him. Thanks, man.
I like the beard. She's wrong.
Right on. Thanks, man.
Thanks. I totally agree. I love the beard. The beard. I would grow one. I just can't. So we've got time for maybe like 2 more questions. So let's jump over here.
This was kind of touched on by the person on the other side of the aisle earlier, but for almost all actors, this is for each of you in turn, for almost all actors, there are periods where they just keep working, and then they're back in the public consciousness, and they just do more work, and then, oh hey, people remember who they are again. In terms of all the work you've both been doing over the years, you guys have done a lot of TV, a lot of film. Is there a play, a film, something you guys have each done that you wish more people either could go back and see or could have seen then? What's a project you both really liked, but not a lot of people saw?
Well, for me, one of the movies that was most special to me was a movie that I did called The Mighty. It was based on a book called Freak the Mighty.
Yeah.
And that was just an amazing experience because I got to work with Harry Dean Stanton and Jenna Rollins and this amazing cast. And I had actually stopped acting I was in college, and I was home on like Christmas break or something, and I got that script. And so that kind of, I think, sort of, I was tired at that point. I'd worked a lot as a kid, so I thought, I was just going to take a break for a while. And then I read that script, and it sort of reminded me, I guess, of like why I love being an actor, And so that one was pretty special for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess probably Stardust. I think. I think. I'm kind of proud of that movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I'm kind of proud of that movie because I think what it set out to achieve, I think, was really realized, which was that the guy who made it said he was a dad. He just had his second child. There were 2 kids under 2, and he said, I want to make a movie that I don't for my kids that I don't fall asleep in. I want to make a movie. So he was like, the idea behind the film was I want to make a kids film for adults. So basically, you go to watch the movie, and the adults come out and are like, that was awesome. I really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And I think that they achieved that with that film. I think it is much more sophisticated than it maybe people think it was going to be. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people.
I've read a lot of Neil Gaiman, and he does very good story.
Yeah, Neil Gaiman's fantastic. Yeah, and I get a lot of guys for a period of time. I had a lot of like drunk guys in their 30s or 40s who would come up to me in the street and be like, dude, I really didn't want to go and see your film. but I was dragged along and I loved it, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it seems like Stardust is kind of like The Princess Bride has now gotten to a state. It was a fantasy movie that came out and not a lot of people saw it, and then has risen to become a pop culture phenomenon. Stardust, like, more people need to watch it.
Yeah, and it does have the kind of, still has a little bit of a following, yeah. So those of you who haven't seen it, check it out. Especially if you've got young kids, it's a great family film.
All right, we've got time for one more question. Let's go over here.
Hello. I was wondering, what were your reactions when you found out you got the roles of Foggy and Matt? And also, what was it like putting on Daredevil's suit for the first time?
I went from ecstatic to terrified in about 15 minutes. You know what I mean? It was an incredibly rigorous audition process. So it'd been about a month of trying to get the role, and so when I got it, I was like really, really excited. And then I went straight into kind of like massive paranoia about how I had to make sure I got it right and all those kind of things. And the second part of your question was, oh yeah, well I tell you what was cool about the suit with this show is that if you make most superhero movies, they have to get into the suit pretty quickly because they've only got a 2-hour period, right? And because we took the whole of the first season, by the time we put the suit on, the whole crew, 150 people we work with every day, the cast and the crew, we were really good friends. We'd all bonded in a massive way. And a lot of them were big comic book fans. A lot of them were Daredevil fans. So when we finally, when we first started, no one knew when the suit was coming. We didn't know if it was definitely coming. And then there were around about episode 6 or 7, there were rumors that there were drawings. People had done, Joe Quesada had done a drawing of the suit, and then I went to Los Angeles, I had a scan for the suit. So it was this massive, slow build, like in the show. And then, so when I finally put it on, it just felt like this massive, massive deal for everyone. And it was kind of cool because I walked out on set and all of the crew were waiting to see the suit, you know what I mean? And I walked on set and I had to wear a dressing gown over the top to get to set so that no one, so I felt really cool underneath and then less cool because I had the dressing gown. And then, I got to set and, I took off, dropped the robe. I said, well, and like everyone was like just like kind of taking it in and thinking about how excited they were. It was really cool, man. It was a very cool experience. And also it's like a boyhood dream, isn't it, to put on a superhero suit? So it was badass.
Oh yeah, well I was still I forgot I had to answer this too. I was still in Germany shooting Hunger Games, and I couldn't tell anybody. I made a tape and sent it in, and then.
Can I just tell you real quick? I'm just gonna jump in here. Eldon made a tape apparently. I heard this. You didn't tell me this. He made a tape on his iPhone, and when they got it, he'd done it the wrong way around. So they had to kind of like try and watch it like.
This is true. And then I had to do like a screen test over Skype. And as Charlie was sort of mentioning, I'm not really good with technology. I couldn't get Skype to work on my computer, so I had to do it on my phone. And it was just like, it was a nightmare. Like, no one ever calls me. And then for some reason, when I was trying to do this audition, people kept calling. And I think maybe I got through the actual audition scene once. And you know, it's funny, later on, Jeff was saying, like, as I was getting more flustered during the audition, because people were calling and I couldn't get things to work, he was just thinking to himself, like, he just is foggy. Like, like who cares about the audition at this point?
Who cares if you can act?
Yeah, exactly. And then it was frustrating after that because they, you know, they waited like, I don't know, 10 days or something like that to tell me that I got the job. But then I was also not allowed to tell anybody. So I was like on set all day, like wanting to tell everyone how excited I was, but I wasn't allowed to say anything.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming out. That's our time. Sorry.
Thanks so much for your support. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You guys will be at your tables all day Sunday? Yep. So you go.